In the beginning, there was nothing but dust, fire, and legend, and from that legend Rome was born. They say it began with a wolf, a she-wolf who nursed two abandoned brothers, Romulus and Remus, on the banks of the river Tiber. But history is never so simple. Beneath the myth of divine birth and prophecy lies the story of ambition, blood, and destiny. Rome was not built by gods. It was forged by men who believed they were gods. In 753 BC, Romulus drew a line in the dirt, the first walls of the eternal city, and when his brother dared to cross it, Romulus killed him. Rome's foundation was set not in stone, but in murder. From that moment on, fratricide became the language of Roman power. The city grew from huts into a kingdom ruled by kings, 7 of them, each weaving threads of civilization into what would become the greatest empire in history. Tarquinius Superbus, the last of these kings, was overthrown in 509 BC, and with him fell the monarchy. In its place rose the Republic, a fragile experiment in shared power between the Senate, the people, and ambition itself. The Republic's heartbeat was the Senate, a chamber of old men wrapped in togas, whispering about honor and law while scheming for power behind marble columns. They feared tyranny, but they craved control, and as Rome expanded, conquering Etruria, Samnium, and Carthage, the Republic began to rot from within. The Punic Wars brought unimaginable wealth and unimaginable cruelty. Carthage, once Rome's greatest rival, was burned to ash, its people enslaved, its lands salted so nothing would ever grow again. Rome had learned that power was not to be shared, it was to be consumed. By the time Julius Caesar arrived, the Republic was already bleeding. Caesar was no mere general, he was a force of nature, charming, ruthless, divine in his own conviction. His conquest of Gaul made him a hero to the people, but a threat to the Senate. When he crossed the Rubicon in 49 BC, he crossed the line between Republic and Empire. They stabbed him 3 times beneath the statue of Pompey, a man he once called a friend. The Senate believed they had killed tyranny, but instead they gave birth to an empire. Octavian, Caesar's adopted son, who would later become Augustus, transformed Rome's broken republic into the most formidable empire the world had ever seen. The Pax Romana, they called it. 2 centuries of peace paid for by blood. But Rome's peace was never silent. In the shadows of the Senate, secret cults whispered of forbidden rites. In the catacombs beneath the streets, Christians prayed to a crucified God, a faith that promised salvation, not conquest. And deep beneath the Vatican Hill, a network of vaults began to form, archives that would one day hold secrets so vast they'd shape the destiny of empires yet unborn. The Vatican archives, their true origin hidden within the folds of papal history, are said to contain over 85 kilometers of shelves. Letters from emperors, scrolls from philosophers, maps that trace lost civilizations. Some say the archives hold the missing books of the Sibylline prophecies, the sealed documents of Constantine, even the correspondence between Pontius Pilate and Caesar himself. But no one knows for certain. The Church guards them as Rome once guarded its legions. The entrance is real, the permission to read nearly impossible. Rome's empire stretched across continents, from the mist of Britannia to the sands of Egypt, from the Rhine to the Euphrates. Roads, aqueducts, and laws spread like veins through the known world. But so did decadence, so did corruption. The emperors became gods in marble and monsters in flesh. Nero burned his own city and sang while it crumbled. Caligula made his horse a consul. Commodus dressed as Hercules and fought gladiators for sport. Each emperor believed himself eternal. Yet each one fell, devoured by the same hunger for power that had burnt Rome from the beginning. Still, through madness and ruin, something remarkable endured, the idea of Rome. The sense that civilization itself flowed from this city, that no matter how many empires rose or fell, Rome would remain the axis around which history turned. By the 3rd century, cracks had spread through the empire like veins of fire. The legions, once invincible, now fought each other for the throne. In just 50 years, more than 20 emperors rose and fell, their reigns measured not in years, but in assassinations. Then came Diocletian, a soldier who tried to rebuild order through division. He split the empire into east and west, ruling with iron discipline, and for a while it worked. But Rome's spirit was not unity, it was ambition. Division would prove fatal. When Constantine seized power in the early 4th century, he changed everything. He embraced Christianity, not out of faith alone, but as a weapon. He saw in the cross the same strength Rome once saw in the eagle. He built a new capital on the Bosporus, Constantinople, and declared it the new Rome. But in doing so, he shifted the heart of the empire eastward, away from the city of its birth. Rome, the mother of empires, began to age. The west fell to barbarians. The east endured as Byzantium. Yet the Vatican remained, silent, watching, guarding, and beneath its vaults the archives grew thicker, darker. Some whisper that among its hidden scrolls lies the original Gospel of Jesus, rewritten before the Council of Nicaea. Others claim there are maps to places no longer on earth, cities that vanished beneath the sands of time. The Church denies it all, but denial has always been Rome's most polished weapon. As the empire crumbled, the idea of Rome transformed. It no longer ruled through legions, but through faith, through the Church, through the invisible empire of the mind. The eternal city had learned the ultimate truth, that true power doesn't come from swords or armies, but from belief. The old empire had fallen, but the name, Rome, would not die. Out of its ashes rose a new kind of dominion, one not forged by steel but sanctified by Scripture. The emperors were gone, but the popes had taken their place. The eternal city had traded its legions for prayers, and yet its reach grew farther than ever before. In the early centuries after the collapse, Rome became a ghost of itself. Grass grew through the cracks of its once mighty forum. The Colosseum stood silent, a mausoleum of forgotten glory. But inside the ruined basilicas, a different kind of power stirred. The Church, born from the persecuted followers of a crucified man, had become the heir to Caesar's throne. The Pope was no longer just a priest, he was a sovereign. His word could crown kings or curse them. His hand could raise empires or bury them in eternal damnation. And in the shadows beneath the Vatican, something vast began to form, a secret world of knowledge, a collection that defied the ages, the Vatican archives. Officially, they were established in 1611 by Pope Paul V, but their roots dig much deeper. Whispers claim the earliest scrolls were hidden during Constantine's reign, records that predate the fall of Rome itself. They say these vaults contain letters written by emperors, confessions of heretics, banned gospels, and maps that show the world before the flood. What lies beneath the Vatican Hill has always been guarded by silence. Even today, the public may only see a fraction of its contents. The rest, nearly 12 centuries of locked rooms, unlit corridors, and forbidden manuscripts, remains sealed. Among the more whispered legends is one of the Index of the Forbidden, a catalogue of works so dangerous that even speaking their names was considered heresy. Books written by men who claimed to have seen angels, letters from Templar Grand Masters begging forgiveness before their execution, writings of Galileo that contradicted not just the heavens, but the Church itself. In the Middle Ages, when Europe slept under the weight of ignorance, Rome became its uneasy dreamer. Pilgrims walked through its decayed ruins, believing they were trading upon sacred ground. But under those stones, the city still remembered its pagan past. The Church built its temples over ancient Roman shrines, and in doing so, it absorbed their power. The Pantheon, once dedicated to all gods, became the Church of St. Mary and the Martyrs. Jupiter's temples became cathedrals. The gods of the old world had not been destroyed. They had been baptized. As centuries passed, the popes played the game of emperors. They sent armies to reclaim the Holy Land. They anointed kings and demanded tribute from nations. And in secret, they hoarded relics, shards of the true cross, the spear that pierced Christ's side, bones of apostles and martyrs. Some say even more mysterious objects were hidden, artifacts brought from Jerusalem, guarded not for faith, but for fear of what they truly were. In the 14th century, Rome fell silent again. The papacy moved to Avignon in France, and for 70 years, the city decayed into chaos. Wolves roamed the ruins at night. Fires burned unchecked. It was said that the ghosts of emperors walked the forum, searching for the empire they had lost. But in 1377, the popes returned, and Rome began to awaken once more, reborn not as the empire of Caesar, but as the empire of the soul. The Renaissance breathed life back into the city. Marble and gold replaced dust and ruin. Michelangelo carved gods into men and painted heaven onto ceilings. The popes became patrons of beauty, but beauty was only a veil. Behind the glitter of frescoes and domes, the Vatican grew more powerful, more secretive, more absolute. The archives swelled with new documents, the trials of Galileo, the letters of monarchs, the treaties that carved the world. Hidden among them, some say, were the missing books of the Bible, the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, the Acts of Pilate, the writings of Thomas the Twin. Stories that contradicted the narrative, that painted Christ not as divine, but as human. The Church condemned them as heresy. But did it destroy them? Or did it simply hide them beneath the city alongside the bones of saints? By the dawn of the 16th century, Rome was both the heart of faith and the center of fear. Luther's rebellion shattered the illusion of unity. Wars of religion tore Europe apart. The Church responded with the Inquisition, a shadow war fought in dungeons and confessionals. Heretics vanished, secrets multiplied, and yet, even then, the Vatican's true vaults remained sealed. Only a handful of scholars, chosen by papal decree, were permitted entry. They claimed to see corridors that stretched endlessly, filled with codices older than memory itself. One described a map of the heavens that did not match our stars, as though it belonged to another sky entirely. Rome endured plagues, invasions, revolutions. Empires rose and fell, and yet the Vatican survived, untouched, unburned, untaken. Napoleon entered the city and seized its treasures, but even he could not breach the archives. They remained locked, untouched by conquerors or time. By the 19th century, Rome had transformed again, now a city caught between holiness and history. Archaeologists began to dig through its ruins, uncovering temples, catacombs, and forgotten altars. Each discovery peeled away another layer of myth, and yet, for every truth unearthed, another secret took its place. And through it all, the Vatican remained the silent custodian of the past. Some say that buried within its walls is the lost chronicle of Romulus himself, the true origin story of Rome, written not by poets, but by priests who feared its truth. Others claim that during World War II, entire documents vanished from its shelves, documents that recorded secret pacts, coded letters, and prophecies that never reached the light. The Church denies it, of course, but denial, like history, is an art Rome perfected long ago. Rome stands today as a city of contradictions, sunlight and shadow, marble and mystery. Tourists wander through its ruins with cameras in hand, marveling at the bones of an empire long dead. But beneath their feet, beneath the stones of St. Peter's and the cobblestones of the Forum, the old Rome still breathes. It whispers through the cracks, through the corridors of power that have never truly fallen silent. For 2,000 years, every civilization that rose after Rome carried its ghost. The British Empire, the French Republic, even the modern world itself, all built on Rome's design. Its laws, its architecture, its symbols of authority still shape the way we think. the way we rule, the way we believe. The eagle of the legions became the emblem of nations. The Latin tongue, though long dead, still lingers in the hearts of law, medicine, and prayer. Rome never died. It evolved. But the question remains, who holds its legacy now? Some say it is still the Vatican, the last empire that never fell. Its power is not measured in armies, but in influence, soft, silent, and enduring. In its archives lie not just the memories of emperors and popes, but perhaps the truth about humanity's past and its future. There are those who believe the Vatican archives contain evidence of civilizations far older than Rome. Fragments of texts describing the flood not as myth, but as memory. Records of star maps from before the dawn of recorded history. And buried deep within sealed vaults, prophecies written in languages no one has spoken for thousands of years. The Church calls these stories blasphemy, but what if they are not? In 1940, as bombs fell across Europe, the Vatican sealed many of its vaults under orders of absolute secrecy. Some historians claim it was to protect holy relics. Others believe certain truths were locked away forever, truths that could have changed everything we know about our origins. A few insiders whispered of the Codex Veritas, a manuscript said to describe the rise and fall of civilizations before the time of man. No one outside the archives has ever seen it. Even today, only a handful of people on Earth can walk those hidden halls. Requests to access specific documents take years to approve. Cameras are forbidden. What they guard inside remains one of humanity's last great unknowns. And perhaps that's the way it's meant to be. The Rome of the Caesars may be gone, but the Rome of secrets endures. The Vatican's walls rise over the ancient necropolis, a city of the dead beneath the city of faith. It's said that below St. Peter's Basilica lies the tomb not just of saints, but of emperors, and even deeper, beneath the catacombs, tunnels extend into the dark. Older than the Church, older than the Republic itself. Some believe they were once part of an ancient Etruscan temple. Others say they lead to something far more forbidden. Because what is Rome, if not the story of forbidden knowledge? From the philosophers who questioned the gods, to the heretics who challenged the Church, every age of Rome has guarded a secret, and punished those who sought to reveal it. Power, after all, has always depended on mystery. When Mussolini marched into Rome, he tried to resurrect the empire in marble and myth. He believed himself a new Caesar. But the city had seen too many like him. Rome endures because it outlives its rulers. When they fall, she remains patient, eternal, watching. After World War II, the Vatican emerged untouched, its records preserved, its silence unbroken. It became a spiritual superpower in a world shattered by ideology. The popes became global figures, moral voices, yet bound by the weight of history they could never fully reveal. The archives expanded, digitized, and hidden deeper still. And yet, rumors persist, files sealed for 100 years, documents marked with strange schedules, records of apparitions and celestial events unexplained by science. Some even claim the Vatican knows more about extraterrestrial life than it admits. Evidence buried beneath layers of classification and centuries of denial. It sounds absurd until you remember this is Rome, a city that has survived every end of the world so far. Walk through the streets at night and you can still feel it, that presence. The hum of the past, the weight of unspoken things. The Colosseum stands like a skeleton of empire. The Tiber flows as it always has, carrying secrets downstream toward the sea. And above it all, St. Peter's dome glows in the dark. The eye of an empire that never truly sleeps. Perhaps Rome's greatest secret is not what lies in the Vatican vaults, or what scrolls remain sealed, but what it teaches us about ourselves. That every empire, every civilization, every age eventually becomes myth, but myths never die. They evolve, they endure, they become the stories we tell to remember who we were. Maybe that's why Rome still feels alive, because we still see ourselves in its ambition, its beauty, its corruption, its fall and its rebirth. So when you look upon its ruins, remember this: every stone, every shadow, every whisper beneath that city tells the same truth. That power fades, but mystery endures. And somewhere, behind the locked doors of the Vatican archives, the last pages of that story still wait to be read. The eternal city remains eternal not because of what it built, but because of what it hides. And perhaps one day, when the final seal is broken and the last vault opens, we'll discover that the true history of Rome, the complete history, was never about emperors or saints, but about the secret that connects them all, the secret that still watches us from beneath the stones. Until then, Rome keeps her silence, and the world keeps wondering what's still buried beneath her streets. If you believe the story of Rome is finished, think again. There are still vaults unopened, truths untold, and mysteries waiting in the dark. Subscribe to Unsolved History, where the past never sleeps, and every empire leaves behind a secret.